When crafting a character who is rough around the edges, it helps to give some pathos, I believe. And one who I believe did this well was Ashley Williams, a character who comes to mind for yours truly when the phrase hashtag humanity first is uttered aloud. She had some qualities which inspired both annoyance and sympathy. And yes, I'm aware she's hot and all. And make no mistake, there are some reasons to be physically attracted to this soldier we meet on Eden Prime. But I find there are also qualities to her character which are as appealing as her physical traits. And to begin this, I would first like to say Ashley Williams is basically like the Ash Williams of Mass Effect, in that she's given a really bad hand in life. That and both make boomstick jokes. Anyway, the two detriments which have proved to be a deep influence on her life are the actions of her grandfather during the Contact Wars and humanity's place in the grand scope of the galaxy. Now, I detest the idea of inherent guilt. I believe it to be little more than the arrogant presumptions of people who have a chip on their shoulder and believing they are owed something, which they are not. They are due jack shit. But in fiction, it makes for a good concept storytelling wise. And no one perfectly encapsulates this, I feel, more than Ashley Williams, who suffered greatly at the concept's non existent hand. Her grandfather surrendered during the Contact Wars, which, for some context, um, during the Contact War, no one had ever surrendered to the Turians except for her grandfather. Now, he had some reasons for doing this, I believe. I can't remember what they were, but they were understandable. But everyone's held it against their family ever since. Um, anyway, her grandfather's surrender has done more to hamper not only her prospects for a time, but also did so for her father's entire life until he died. Like, he was never able to rise above this one rank. I think was a gunnery sergeant or something, because of his association with a man who surrendered during the Contact War, which was bullshit. Like, you should not be held accountable for what your father did. But yeah, that was basically it. Um, that can have an effect eventually. Think about it this way: you're a hard worker. You do the best damn job you can, but no matter how hard you try, it never is good enough for the people in charge. Why? Because that's because of what someone else did. You have to suffer the ramifications of. Now, admittedly, Ashley proved to be relent, more relentless and dedicated to, well, basically overrunning the curse. Like, it started to lose effect in her life eventually, but it still held her back for a time. The other detriment in her life, again, is humanity's place in the galaxy's grand scheme, or their lack of place and respect. Humanity is low on the totem pole of significance in the wider scheme. Now, in defense of the Xenos, humanity was like the new kid on the block in Ashley's lifetime, so of course they weren't exactly going to treat humanity the way they do the others. Like, let's say you arrive at school, do you expect everyone to just kiss your ass and act like you're the greatest thing since sliced bread or the invention of the Winchester rifle? No, you actually have to prove it. So her stance is somewhat commanding of some sympathy. Sure, just because you are given a bad hand in life does not mean you have an excuse to do as you please and have and be an asshole without consequence, but it does influence us in a way we probably wish it would not. But regardless, I think this does need to be considered when forming an opinion of this soldier squad mate. Like, yeah, it sucks. Like, it's kind of like you have some people who say if you're white, you share the blame of slavery just because you're white, and your ancestors may have owned a slave. Like, is that fair? No. And to also be fair, despite the fact that humanity is the new kid on the block, the alien races don't exactly treat them as equals. Like, Ashley points this out in the game, and I agree with her. They don't. Like, it's pretty blatant how they treat. Like, it wasn't until so many years after the Contact War, like it took 2 generations after the Contact War for there to be a human allowed to become a Spectre. Granted, there was a chance for one in the generation after it, but this was ruined by Saren, who destroyed Anderson's chance of being a Spectre. But anyway, So there's that. So humanity does have to prove itself, but at the same time, the alien races didn't need to be complete douches about it. But that's just my 2 cents. And they didn't have to be as condescending, I suppose. Now, this isn't me saying that Williams isn't without faults. She does let her emotions get the better of her at times. You see this in two great examples in the trilogy. First, when you run into her after the Collectors attack a colony, and she is angry with Shepard for working with Cerberus, and in the third game, she was a seconds away from shooting Shepard because she got between him and a council member who was working for the Reapers, or working with the Cerberus, who were by proxy also doing things to collaborate with the Reapers. And she was actually willing to shoot Shepard. She was actually holding a gun to him, probably was prepared to shoot him. And it was a situation where Shepard either had to talk her down or Garrus had to kill her and blow her away. Anyway, both times, assuming you didn't have Garrus blow her away, she ended up regretting what she did and said. So she's not without faults. Like Garrus, she has good and bad aspects to her. That's what I find so appealing about her as a character. Despite these shortcomings, much like Garrus, her heart is in the right place. She wants what is best for humanity in the long run. She is, again, the embodiment of the humanity first mentality. She is a hard worker who strives for excellence and who does what she believes is the best action to undertake. However, some of her ideas do seem to demand taking actions she will regret later, and others may not like also. Is she a little xenophobic? Maybe, but like the Michael Jackson situation, when you consider the context of the situation, it makes a lot more sense and can even be understandable. So, yeah, that's why I think Ashley Williams is more demanding of some sympathy whenever I make a judgment of her. I don't completely condemn her, but man, did she have a bad hand. So it doesn't surprise me she ended up the way she did. Have a nice day. I remember the game was rigged from the start.